Rem's latte art won. It was 3 days after a new servant had entered the Roswell manor. "What are you doing, Subaru?" Holding open the door leading back to the dining hall from the kitchen, Rem tilted her head and asked that. The current time was after lunch. Preparation of food was Rem's job, but cleaning up afterwards was included in that as well. Having finished that, she'd just now come to check on how the newly hired servant was handling cleaning up the dining hall. "Oh, hey Rem, don't worry about the cleaning, it's done. It's break time now." Greeting Rem as she returned to the dining hall was a black-haired boy who was smiling casually at her. He had black hair, a color that was rarely seen in the kingdom, and his features had a peculiar way of making him feel younger than the age he'd given. The eye color and the color of his skin were rare as well, and his point of origin was still unclear. Regardless, there was no mistaking the way that his over-snug butler's uniform didn't suit him at all. This was the new servant that the Roswell Manor had welcomed, Natsuki Subaru. For a moment, Rem was silent as her gaze judged him. Subaru didn't show the least sign of being aware of it, and stood looking pleased with himself, without a care showing on his face. It looked like nothing more than the innocent face of a mischievous boy, and this only strengthened Rem's suspicion about his age. Could a boy with this sort of childlike face truly be the same 17 years of age as herself and her sister? "Well, that's fine. So why are you in such a good mood? Because you piled up the plates nicely or spread the tablecloth nicely?" "No way. Do you think of me as the kind of guy who would make a 'yeah, I did it' face from a little job like that? When I think back to how you worked on your first day, I don't think such an opinion is that far off the mark. Gah, I can't really deny that, but just you wait. I'm a man with incredible potential for growth. The rebellious skyrocket that could one day threaten even your position is climbing now." "What's this now? What will happen one day? Please speak clearly." Leaving behind Subaru as he ground his teeth in frustration, Rem turned her eyes towards the dining hall's table, where Subaru had been playing up until now. It was a fairly wide table, and could be used for dining and discussions for 10 people or more. Naturally, the recent lunch was taken here, so cleaning it up had been Subaru's responsibility, but "This is a cup you forgot to put away, is it not?" Looking at the cup placed on the table, Rem raised an eyebrow a little. If there was nothing unusual about it, she might have taken it as something that hadn't been cleaned up, or Subaru's cup for his break. However, it was clearly different. As Rem pointed it out, Subaru's face broke out in a wide, "you noticed" grin. "Yeah, actually I've wanted to try that out ever since I noticed there's something like coffee around here as well. It was really rough trying to get the milk close to what I remember, but sometimes you just gotta try it." Subaru extended both his hands towards Rem, while dancing festively. Held in one hand was a cup poured full of a drink made from beans, originating from the Valatian Empire, called coff, and in the other hand was a container of milk. And as for what Subaru was doing with those two things, "You've used the milk to draw a picture in the coff, then." In the black fluid in the cup, a white pattern had been used to draw a little picture of a cat. Rem couldn't help but let out a sigh of exasperation mixed with wonder at his playfulness. 2. "So you keep the the coff hot, and then the trick is to make the design a little at a time while keeping the milk at the bottom. There's different ways to do it, but first, the basics are..." Seemingly to have mistaken Rem's first sigh for admiration, Subaru cheerfully began to explain, and poured another cup of piping hot coff so she could see. The aroma of the steaming coff spread through the room, and Rem sniffed quietly, struggling not to let her interest show on her face. For the moment, she simply kept her attention on Subaru's hands. When the cup had been poured about half full of coff, Subaru next switched to the container of milk and began to fill the cup the rest of the way. The foamy milk was something new to Rem, and she couldn't help but open her eyes wide. "What have you done to this milk?" This here is the end product of a lot of difficult work. Honestly, steaming it would be ideal, but I just don't have that kind of equipment, so I use the magic crystals in the bathing room instead. There was a lot of trial and error involved, I'll tell ya. I couldn't get it quite right. The foamed milk wouldn't turn out like that simply by heating it. She was terribly interested in what sort of struggle Subaru, who she didn't think could use magic, had gone through with the magic crystals. However, Rem quickly remembered her own duties, and that she was in charge, and put away her curiosity. She should make him put away the cup and cough right away. Even on break, one should be cautious of playing around. She should, and yet, to make sure the milk doesn't spread too far, you keep it on the inside like this. Then, a layer of milk builds up a little at a time, so when you keep the unruly bit of it under control and redo it. Ah, there you go, the first step of the first step. The completion of a heart design. Lifting up the container of milk, Subaru spun about and unveiled the finished product. Making way for him, Rem blinked at yet another surprise as she viewed the result. The white design drawn in the cup was a fanciful thing built up from countless layers of milk. Without thinking, she let a sigh of admiration escape her lips. Amazing! Oh, what's that, please speak up. Feel free to shower me with praise. Isn't it amazing? It's a skill you could never gain without being an amazingly idle person. Don't you think you should apologize to all the latte artists throughout the world? As Subaru started getting full of himself, she abruptly gave him a backhanded compliment. While it was simply out of the question to openly recognize his accomplishment, there was no escaping the fact that it was not only a rare ability, but a craft that required exceptional skill. Even this pattern that he had called the first step made that clear. The picture of a kitten that Subaru had first drawn in that cup, the great spirit that accompanied Emilia, how incredibly difficult would that be? This is called latte art. Yep. Latte is sort of the name of this drink, and you make art with it. Back where I'm from, it's an essential skill for a first-class waiter. Latte art and sewing as well. You're quite good with your hands at little skills, Subaru. When you call them little skills, it really makes them sound like something that isn't an essential part of life. Besides that, I can do magic tricks and play the guitar and cat's cradle and ball and cup toys and yo-yo and lots of things, you know. Presented with a list of skills she'd never heard of, Rem doubted their existence. However, there was the precedent of the latte art. Perhaps all of them were from a world of little skills that Rem knew nothing of. And thinking about it now that I've said all that, what am I trying to do with nothing but skills that have no practical use? Boasting all that, and then becoming depressed about it, you must have lived a life free of boredom, Subaru. That's a surprising evaluation of me when my goal in life was to live in seclusion and play with cats on the porch. Subaru shivered. Seeing him looking like that, Rem felt even more certain. Subaru was most likely a person who grew up in a very fortunate environment. It was true of his work as a servant as well, but she felt that he mostly had no experience engaging in hard work before now. That's why his fingers were pretty, and in some areas he was lacking knowledge and common sense needed for life. In exchange for that, being able to enjoy something like latte art was a sign of the frivolity of the upper class born from a life of ease. That fact itself was neither a good thing nor a bad thing. Being unable to choose one's birth was the same for everyone, regardless of whether one was poor or rich. Subaru was making an effort to learn his job, regardless of the results. So, even if one were to overlook that he was playing like this during his break time. Well, there's a few things I'd like to say about your merciless poison tongue, Rem, but fine, here. Huh! Taking the offered container of milk, Rem let out a surprised voice without meaning to. She looked back and forth from the milk in her hand and Subaru's face. Subaru scratched his head as she looked at him. What you mean, huh? Looking all anxious to try it like that, don't give me that. Saying that she looks anxious to try. Rem wouldn't. When your face looked like you were dying to try it like that, you don't need to be embarrassed about it. You're a cute girl too, Rem, so what's wrong with playing a little now and then? Turning his attention away from Rem as she backpedaled, Subaru poured another cup of cough. Then, placing the cup before her, he offered it with a look that said, go ahead. For you to have implied that Rem really wanted to try that. Well, it would be a lie if I said that I didn't want to even a little tiny bit. Not in the least, just a little, perhaps slightly. I get it. I'm forcing you to try it even though you don't want to. So just once, please do. Well, when you put it like that, it can't be helped. Honestly, Subaru, you're so troublesome. Pestered until she was left with no choice, Rem hid the glee she couldn't help but feel and turned towards the cup. Recalling Subaru's process from earlier, the order of things seemed to be that one first poured milk into the slightly tilted cup, building a layer on the interior and drawing a pattern. Envisioning Subaru's movements that she'd been watching wide-eyed, she overlaid her own movement and imitated them. Using the white pattern on the black liquid, she drew from her heart. Rem looked back towards Subaru, and he looked to her and nodded forcefully. Well, that's how it turns out on a novice's first try. Don't worry about it. Rather than playing endlessly, Subaru, please get back to work right away. While holding the messy art in front of her, Rem stated that in the coldest voice she had used yet. 3. Rem, what are you doing? Surprised while she was concentrating by a voice from behind her, Rem's little shoulders jumped. Looking behind her to the dining hall's entrance, standing in the entrance was a girl with sharp, pale red eyes, her older sister Ram. Rem's eyes briefly lit up at the sight of her beloved sister, but she quickly remembered what she was doing, and her expression stiffened. Suddenly, she tried to hide what was on the table, but isn't this what Barusu was playing at? It was impossible for her to deceive the sister who had always been better than her at everything, and Ram immediately saw through Rem's clumsy attempt to cover it up. As Rem shrank, Ram looked over the countless cups Rem had been working on, and the failed latte art, and narrowed her eyes. It would soon be nearly an hour since Rem had chased Subaru out of the dining hall, saying that she would clean up. The state Rem now found herself in was that, until Ram arrived, after becoming frustrated with the work when Rem did not return, she had forgotten the time and been trying her best at latte art. Glancing quickly, she could see that the magic crystal that showed the time had changed color, and she finally realized that break time had long since passed. It was shameful. On top of that, her sister had found out. It's rare for you to lose track of time playing at this sort of thing, Rem. I'm sorry, sister. I'll clean it up right away. I'll catch up right away on my work, too. Oh, I should never have been doing something like this. Don't be silly, Rem. I'm not upset about it. I just thought it was unusual. As Rem shrank back, Ram's expression softened in a way that only someone close to her would recognize. Then she poured coffee into an empty cup, took hold of the milk placed nearby, and began to gently pour it into the cup. Doing her work with all of her might is one of Rem's good points, but occasionally it's good to do something with all your might even if you can't expect any results from it. If there's no leeway in your heart, nothing will ever go right for you. Are those Master Roswal's words? Yes, as expected of Master Roswal, they're wonderful words. I feel the same way too. Thinking of her master with an enchanted look on her face, Ram's eyes were gentle as she stared into the cup. Having finished pouring milk into it, inside the cup in her hands was, "This is a pattern I've never seen before." A pattern, no, a letter? It seems that this is how you write older sister in the letters of Barusu's homeland. He insisted I look at it while he was studying in the evening, so I learned it no matter how little I wanted to. Although she'd never seen the letter before, there was no mistaking that it had been drawn by a combination of reliable skills. Rem marveled at her sister's talent and gazed shyly at her. "Were you practicing latte art as well, sister?" "Not really. It's called latte art, is it? I simply imitated what Barusu was doing earlier." As Ram spoke about it as though it were nothing, Rem couldn't help but catch her breath. Cutting off the momentary hesitation before her sister would think it strange, Rem smiled softly. "Impressive as always, sister. Subaru will be jealous too, no doubt. It might be entertaining to crush Barusu's areas of expertise one by one like that. Regardless, that's enough of this for now. I'll clean this up and catch up with you." Saying that, Ram took the containers of coffee and milk and headed off to the kitchen to clean up. Watching her go, Rem compared her own botched creations lined up on the table with the older sister that Ram completed on her first try, without any practice, and sighed softly. "You truly are impressive, sister." Herself, unable to create a single thing she was satisfied with, and her sister, who was able to complete it so easily and skillfully. It was something she should have already understood, but when she had a chance to compare them like this, she was once again made painfully aware of how far she had to go. To Rem, it was a harsh prompting towards self-reflection and self-discipline. "Well, all of this needs to be cleaned up then." Speaking to no one in particular, Rem collected all of the used cups onto the tray, and at the end, she gathered up Ram's older sister artwork, Bitter. Avoiding damaging the pattern in the milk and moistening her tongue with the slightly cooled cough. "First, I'll have to teach Subaru how to grind the beans. Deciding to teach him about her own area of expertise, she followed Ram's path towards the kitchen. The end.